how long is it? Okay, it's only like 40 minutes. It's not that bad. Okay.
Tulsa King was, some kind of a gangster or something or other.
Tulsa King was an odd mix of crime and humor.
The Tulsa King was my gangster.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast, the podcast in which we watch the first episode of a series so that you don't have to. You're going to thank us later. Today, guess what we are watching? We are watching Tulsa King, starring Sylvester Stallone. First episode is entitled Go West, Old Man, and this is on Paramount Plus. You know our captain co-host. His name is Dr. Muhammad Noor.
Hello, always a pleasure to be on Fallingtower's Watch the First Things.
He is
even more so with today's guest.
Yeah, he's from Duke University. He's an occasional Star Trek science advisor. Malissa Longo is also here. She's an actress. She's a fabricator. She makes things like that still works, right? Fabricator makes it sound like lying, but like you make things, right? That works.
I do make things, yeah.
Okay, and you sell them online. How are you, Melissa?
I'm great. Great. Excited to be here.
I'm going to look up fabricator. I'm sure I used that correctly. A person who fabricates or manufactures something. Yeah, that works. Okay.
And some of it with fabric.
Yeah.
Right? Most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My name is Ryan T. Husk.
Pair of pants.
I felt like this was the right day for a American Megadeth shirt because I feel like this was kind of a show about like going into the old, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I thought it was a good day for listener shirt.
Yay!
Especially because this is April 5th, which means it is First Contact Day, Star Trek First Contact Day. Great shirt, Muhammad.
Also, the shirt is by Walking Art made by Melissa, which is available on theintrovertedrepublic.com.
Yeah.
Check it out.
You should have the V. I've messed up before not putting the V and gotten in trouble. So make sure to put the V.
Huh. So, of course, everybody, you know what we are reviewing. This whole month is just new stuff. All new stuff. It got released in the last few months. This is what we're reviewing. It's a mixed bag of new things. It can be sci-fi, it can be humor, it can be animated stuff, whatever. Let's get into it. First things first, Muhammad, please tell us, where the heck are we going with this thing?
Well, I think this is the section we like to call the predicaments, where we like to predict what each other thought about this after we saw it without knowing ahead of time. We've not discussed it.
I love it. Muhammad and I have known each other pretty well for a few years. Melissa and I have known each other pretty well for a few years. The two of you have known each other pretty well for a few years. So we're pretty good at guessing what the other person thought. Let's get into it, shall we? And everybody at home, you can make your predictions too. Check this out. Muhammad, I predict that you are sub 5 on this. I don't remember why, but when I watched this, I remember thinking, I don't know if Muhammad is going to like this. And I can't remember why. So I'm just going to stick with it. Melissa, I think you are sub 5. Sorry, above 5, but not way above. I think you're like, lukewarm on it. Yeah, I think that's where we are with you. I think you laughed a few times. I think you have a few qualms with the show. Muhammad, same thing with you, but I think you're going to like it a little bit less. But what are your predictions, Muhammad?
This one is hard, especially since we don't often do sort of dramatic sort of shows on this channel. It's often more like heroes and things like that. So this one's tough. I'd say for Ryan, I think you're going to come in the middle. I think there's going to be elements you thought were pretty good, but I think some of it you're going to be like, what was this? What is this? Why are we following this old man around? So it's going to be kind of like that. Melissa, I think I come in similar to Ryan. I think you thought I think maybe you might have found it okay, but I don't think you loved it. And I think you were more like, it was okay. That's kind of where I think you guys will come in.
Intriguing. Melissa, what about
Uh-huh.
you? What are your predictions today?
Yeah, as Muhammad said, this is a tricky one. It's a difficult one to peg down. Ryan is not into mafia stuff. So, but I think that maybe he found some moments that he appreciates in this show, and it has some high points. Muhammad, I was thinking something similar to Ryan, where you may not have liked it as much because of possibly all of the profanity and 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 some of the violence, but yeah, but I think you could appreciate the show too.
Well, everybody at home, it's time for you to make your predictions. Do you think I like this show? Do you think Muhammad liked this show? Do you think Melissa liked this show that was full of profanity that I didn't even notice?
I didn't notice that either when you said that. I was like, there's a lot of profanity.
Muhammad also raised that. Both of us were like, was there profanity? I didn't even notice. But we'll get into that a little later. So everybody make your predictions. Whether we liked it, take your time in the live chat or in the comments below. Type away. Let us know if you think we enjoyed this show and how much. While you're doing that, Mr. Noor here, Dr. Noor, Muhammad, AF Noor, will let you all know what the show is even about.
All right. After 25 years in prison, Dwight Manfredi learns that his old partners have taken over his turf on Long Island and basically exile him to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Dwight relents, moves there, has many awkward encounters, and ends up partnering with a fun and unfiltered cabbie named Tyson. Dwight uses some violence to become the protector of a marijuana dispensary, and also ironically buys them a security camera and gives the owner advice. He also meets a lady who he likes, but who becomes uncomfortable with, as she calls it, the, quote, age canyon separating them. In the end, we discover she works for ATF, and she discovers he's a gangster.
If I remember correctly, he didn't mind the canyon. He seemed to enjoy the canyon. And I only mean that in one way. So, what? I just mean the age canyon. So we're going to compare and contrast now, everybody, what we expected versus what we got, which Muhammad likes to call
expectations, because we spend a little time on what we expect, just a little bit, and then most of the show on what we getchin'.
All right. This is fun. I love this. So let's get into it. We're going to compare and contrast what we expected versus what we got. Dr. Noor here, start us off. You are the brave one. Before you watch this first episode of Tulsa King, entitled Go West, Old Man, what did you expect, if anything?
So the name didn't ring a bell at all. Like when I got your text saying Tulsa King, I was like, Tulsa King? What the heck is that? I pulled up something really quick and I saw it was a Stallone thing. I was like, oh, maybe I've seen a commercial about this on Paramount Plus before watching some Star Trek episode or something like that. But if I did, I completely was just looking the other way, doing other things, completely not paying attention to it. And I saw it as we started. I thought it was a crime show. I was like, oh, okay. So I went in not with the most positive attitude. I did immediately, as soon as I saw the crime, I was like, how long is it? Okay, it's only like 40 minutes. It's not that bad. Okay.
You know I wouldn't lead you into a 70-minute
That's
thing.
right.
There's no way.
I mean, it'd be okay if it was something like more sci-fi, but like crime, like, no, I don't want to do 70
I can't
crime.
stomach 70 minutes. Malissa Longo, what about you? What did you expect, if anything, before watching this first episode?
Well, I remember seeing a trailer for it a while ago when it was about to start, and I saw that it had Stallone in it, and I'm like, oh yeah, because I'm a Stallone fan. You might not know this, but I enjoy Sylvester Stallone a lot, actually. Rocky, woohoo!
Rocky was fun.
Such a good movie. So I was excited about seeing it. I hadn't remembered the trailer and what was in it, so I was kind of going in blind. But yeah, I was expecting Stallone, so that's
Okay, interesting. Well, I'll tell you what I expected. I'm right in the same boat as Dr. Noor here, to where I hadn't really heard of it. It's on Paramount Plus, but I feel like I had seen some kind of commercial for it on Paramount Plus when I was going to watch some Star Trek, which I do very often. So that's where I had heard of it ever so slightly. Although when I hit play, I was like, oh, Sylvester Stallone's in here. So I knew so little that I didn't even know Sylvester Stallone was in it, or I did know and I forgot because I didn't care. Melissa, I too, I'm okay with him. I liked Rocky 1 and 4. I think especially were really good, but I don't like I'm not like a big.
4 was the one against the Soviet.
Yeah, Ivan Drago. He is a chunk of iron.
Mr. T.
Oh, Mr. T. That's right.
Yeah.
Mr. T is a very cool guy, by the way. Really nice dude. Used to work out with him. So at the gym. Anyway, so I didn't really expect anything. Although, I'm trying to remember if this was before watching it or at the very beginning. Yeah, no, I didn't know this before it started recording, so I won't say that. But I will say that I had the impression that it might be of a Breaking Bad kind of vibe. Tulsa, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, kind of southwest-ish, like Breaking Bad in Albuquerque, and it's going to be kind of seemingly about a guy building up some kind of empire in there. So I kind of was thinking, oh, is this going to be like a Breaking Bad thing? That would be really cool. So, although I don't usually like that kind of stuff, full disclosure, that's what we expected. Dr. Noor, what did you actually get?
So my opinion changed repeatedly as I was watching it. In the very beginning, and I'll give a summary piece in just a second. In the very beginning, he was coming out of prison and meeting with the crime people and fighting with them. I was like, oh. I was definitely not enjoying that. I mean, there were a couple of little funny lines, like when he sat at the table and they said, "Oh, I get the head of the table." He's like, "That ain't the head, that's the ass." That was kind of funny. But yeah, I was definitely up to the point where he got to Tulsa. I was like, oh gosh, how long is this gonna be? When he got there, it improved a little bit because the lady who started spraying with holy water because he was cursing. I thought that was pretty funny. Some of the stuff in there, it felt a little bit forced, like the whole, if only there was something where you could look up in the palm of your hand what, some facts. Like, okay, really? Like, you were in prison, you weren't underground. I mean, you would still know that there are smartphones out there. I'm sure. I mean, I've never been in prison, but I'm assuming that that's not that crazy. Some of that felt a little forced, but I like the interaction. I like the cabbie. What was his name? Tyson. I thought he was great. Yeah, then my opinion just got much more mixed, where some of the specific interactions were kind of fun or funny, and I liked that he was kind of an anti-hero, where on the one hand he was a bad guy, but on the other hand he seems to have some moral code to make sure the audience doesn't just hate the main character. So when he stuck up for that girl who somebody who was at the bar was trying to hit on him too hard, that was kind of cool. But at the same time, obviously he's a bad guy very clearly and hurting people unnecessarily. But a lot of it just felt just really unrealistic. And he's one guy. I feel like people could just together take him on and take him down or something, especially right at the very beginning. But yeah, it was mixed. It was mixed overall. I mean, the final thing I'll say real quick is that he was sent to Tulsa, but it was unclear. There wasn't anything for him in Tulsa. So I mean, I feel like he could have been like, "Oh, screw that! I'm not going to Tulsa. I'm going to Laramie, Wyoming. Or I'm going to Colorado Springs. I'm going." It's not like there was anything there. They were just trying to send him away. So it was unclear why he agreed to go there and not just pick some other random spot. There was nothing about that destination that was specific. So.
Well, Melissa, what did you actually get upon viewing this first episode of Tulsa King?
Well, I have to say that the opening, I felt very much the same as Muhammad. I was like, okay, I don't know about this. It's kind of draggy, but not. And they did provide a lot of information and backstory and all of that. And they explained that he basically served a 25-year prison sentence for a murder somebody else committed. He didn't commit the murder, but because of the oath that he took to his crime family, gave to his crime family, he served the time. And that was my guess as to why he went to Tulsa, because they had been scouting out Tulsa for new territory to grow their territory. And so and then I got a show that was surprisingly witty. I laughed quite a bit, a lot more than I thought I had, and found that I thoroughly enjoyed the show after the opening. So
interesting. Yeah. Well, everybody, I'm going to tell y'all what I actually got. Along with Malissa and Mohammed, at first didn't do it for me because, full disclosure, I don't really like the mafia stuff. I know this is like walking into a bar and saying I don't like Quentin Tarantino. You're really setting yourself up for disaster if you say I've never watched the Godfather movies. I never watched what was the one that was a series? That was like one of the biggest.
The Sopranos.
Sopranos. Yeah. I never watched the Sopranos. I know. People are like, "What? You never? This guy's opinion is null and void." Yeah, but I didn't. That stuff doesn't interest me. Like the East Coast mafioso, whatever. It doesn't do anything for me. It kind of feels whatever. Not my thing. But that was over fairly quickly, and then we get dropped into Tulsa, which is my thing. I love seeing places that are kind of new to me, or like, put me in Tulsa, put me in like the Ozarks. Like there's that TV show Ozark, right? That stuff is fascinating. It's beautiful to see new landscapes and cityscapes and the way people are in these foreign places to us. It just feels very different, and it's really interesting. And I love that kind of stuff. And so that's what excited me about the show is, what's up with Tulsa? I have been there once, but it was kind of in an adversarial kind of thing. Not to really get too much into that, but it was about, veganism and stuff like that. And so the whole point was to go into the belly of the beast. So we went to like Dallas and Shreveport and Tulsa and Oklahoma City. And I remember one of them was like, "Are y'all one of them vegans?" And vegans, I think they said. And I'm like, yeah, nice people. But anyway, it was, we were the trolls showing up on their turf, but for good reason, I think. Anyway, the point is that it was good. It was good enough. It was, it was charming. It was funny. It was a good premise. It gives me Tulsa, and then when I started watching, I was thinking, oh man, it's going to be like a Breaking Bad thing where one guy kind of takes over, but in a different way of taking it over. But that's what we're looking at, kind of. But it ended up being a little less like that than I expected when I first started watching it. But it was still good. I thought a lot of things were very eye-rolly, where I was like, that wouldn't really happen. Why don't they just call the police? There were so many things that just, come on, totally unrealistic. And I would have liked a lot more conflict. I found it to be way too easy for the main character. There was no conflict, which is needed in a good episode or any good writing. And I don't mean like fist fights. That's not necessarily conflict. It's just two people wanting two different things. And each scene had it, but I didn't feel like enough. I didn't feel like he was met with enough conflict. I kept waiting and expecting, well, you know what? That's what I got. Let's just get into this. I kept waiting and expecting for him, the main character, Sylvester Stallone, to run into a roadblock.
Totally.
And that would have made the show even more interesting.
Totally.
I expected it to happen when he goes into the back office the first time with Weasel Eddie or whatever his name is, Brody or something like that.
Yeah.
And I thought he just, like, the guy just lets him into his office, lets him take money.
And while he's there in the back, nobody's calling the cops on him to come in there.
Exactly. That's what I thought. I thought it was going to be so funny and so great if he goes, all right, I'm going to take this money from you and I'll see you tomorrow. And I'll take more money from you. And then he turns around and there's the police saying, all right, put your hands up. And then he's like, huh. And then that's like commercial break, like, oh shit, it's not as easy as just walking and taking money. Otherwise everybody would do it. And then it would make him have to elevate his game. Suddenly he's like, oh shit, okay, I got to be smart about this. I'm just one guy. So there was a lot of those things.
Well,
please. You might be about to say the same thing I was going to say.
No, I will say that having been to many different places in the U.S. and all of that, you will meet people who don't know how to handle conflict. So that those things that you brought up aren't the first thing that springs to mind. They did say there's no gangs here, there's no crime here, there's no anything here. Fred had mace to spray at someone, and he's the security guard, and he's eating pork rinds in the corner.
Yeah, but wouldn't they call the cops like even after he left? Then wouldn't they just say,
on that? So the reason I think maybe Dwight specifically picked the marijuana dispensary for that reason, that they were the least likely to call the cops, because probably, although being a dispensary is legal, they're probably not limiting how much they're giving out. There's probably so many violations there that they don't really want the cops to come in. That was when I afterwards rationalized it.
That's how I had to justify it to myself too. Yeah,
and they kind of alluded to the fact that the money in the safe wasn't accounted for.
Yes,
so
exactly.
That's not the money that the government knows that they have. So if he calls the cops, they're going to say, okay, so why aren't you reporting this money and only reporting the money that's in the bank?
That was my thinking too, that I had to kind of justify it to myself, where I was like, well, I guess they're hinting that they're not really on the up and up. And so they're like, I can't call the cops because then they'll start snooping around and they'll see the things that I'm doing that are bad.
I thought the same as Melissa at first, but then actually I questioned it because I was kind of like, well, but I mean, the cops aren't the IRS. They're not going to come in and be like, they just see like somebody's taking stuff in there. So I initially thought that maybe it's because of the money. Then I was like, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're just going to be like, I've got money here. And the cops, it clearly wasn't coming from Stallone. So.
Yeah. Yeah. But, people start digging, you bring any kind of authority in, and there's going to be some digging involved. And to avoid that, he's taking 20% of all of it. That's why he's like, you're only taking that. So he's not robbing me. So to keep this extra money on the side so that I'm not going to claim, maybe it's okay to do business with this guy. I mean,
what did you guys? Sorry.
Yeah, and it's not like he did ask, "Do I have a choice?" And he said no.
That was funny. I like that.
I got a lot of laughs though.
Yeah,
a lot of laughs. Like when the grasshopper hits him.
Oh my gosh.
He's like, oh, what is this thing? Or when he says to the guy, I don't want to hurt your feet. I don't know why that made me laugh, but it did. And then when he said, somebody thinks it's a robbery. I don't remember why that made me laugh. The guard holds pepper spray, as you mentioned. That was funny. When he says, you one gangster looking motherfucker. That was also funny. There were a lot of laughs when he says we don't get much crime here, and he goes, there are a lot of churches around here. Also funny. Or when he said, you're in the Bible Belt, and this here is the buckle. Clever. Also funny. There was one moment that actually made me laugh out loud, not just go whatever. And that was when he first goes up to the bar, sees the bartender, and he says, I assume you don't have Chianti. And the bartender says, you assume correctly. And I don't know why that made me laugh out loud, but it really did, because it that felt very, Tulsa to me for some reason. They have like that weird kind of polite vernacular, I don't know why, but that actually gave me the biggest laugh.
My favorite one was, are you from the government? And he's like, I just knocked out so-and-so. Do you think I'm a CPA? That was my favorite.
Melissa, you said it was very funny as well. What were some good laughs on your part?
Yeah, well, I wrote down the whole scene when the grasshopper lands on him, and he's like, that thing's the size of my cock. And the woman goes, excuse me? And then she squirts him with holy water. And that would kill me. I had to watch that part over and over and over again because I was laying on my bed watching it, not expecting that moment at all. And I just busted out laughing. So, yeah, that was pretty great. And then the whole car scene for me between Tyson and Dwight was golden because I think they worked well with each other, and their banter back and forth about being a gangsta and not being a gangsta and what gangsta and all of this stuff. It was that got me. I liked Tyson a lot too. And then when the woman walks up to ask if Dwight is famous and but he's talking to the other girl who said, well, why are you rude to my friend? And then she's like, well, they wanted to invite you to the party. And he asked, what party? And she says, the karaoke castle. And then he says, sounds exciting, but I really wouldn't call that a party. Is it a party? Karaoke castle.
Yeah.
But
then they end up just sitting in a bar and drinking. So like, that's the same.
At a strip
that's when they
club.
went to the strip joint.
Yeah. Okay. That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, I found myself laughing a lot more than I had expected to laugh in this show.
Muhammad, any big laughs on your part?
Yeah, my favorite was the Are You From the Government one. I think you guys hit all the other ones I had. Like, I loved, as Melissa said, the banter between Tyson and Dwight and the Cap. I thought that was the best. And as you said, Ryan, or maybe it was Melissa actually, about the first landing thing. I think those were the best points. I had a couple of those like minor laughs, like when he said something like, if anybody asks what I do, say I'm an industrialist. Like, what's an industrialist?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the George Jefferson reference that like the cabbie wouldn't have gotten. It's like, oh, I love the Jeffersons.
Yeah. Well, and I like that he introduced himself to the car dealer guy as Perry Cuomo.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was funny.
There were a few mixed bag things in rapid succession to me. One was when it felt there were a few aspects of this show that felt very white knighty to me. And that's like, oh, Tyson can't get a car. He's like, I'll handle this. Hush, little puppy. I'll fix their way. And he kind of comes in, and that's cool if that happens once, but it seemed I had to check on IMDb. I'm like, did Sylvester Stallone write this for himself? Because it felt very much like somebody wrote this to make themselves feel like a white knight hero. And I checked, and no, he didn't write it. He has no writing credits in it at all. Yeah. So I don't know if they wrote it for him.
It's clearly written for him, though.
Yeah, but who knows if he had any say?
Actually.
Oh, interesting. Okay, which is also Paramount Plus. So, okay, so I was wrong there. But
that comment about, like, I wouldn't have thought you were over 55. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was a little bit for me. But what I did really like was there are a lot of very cute moments. Like, for lack of a better word, there are moments that were cute. Like when he buys those two drunks some bourbon, and he's comparing boots with the one guy. And I don't know why. I was like, oh, that's so freaking cute. Like, that was real, walking into a bar and just making friends with the locals that just want to say hello. It was a little heavy on people giving them their introductory life story in the first episode, which I don't think we needed. I don't think we needed to know the life story of the bartender right away, because it doesn't come into play. Give it to us in episode 4, once we already like the guy and we recognize him and know him. There was a little bit of that. There was no real twist in the entire episode except for that very ending with the ATF lady, which was a very good twist. But I thought there was going to be way more than that. Like the cops come, or there wasn't much of that. So it was kind of a mixed bag there.
Yeah, there just weren't many challenges for him.
Exactly. It was all very easy for him. Easy one punch victories, 1 or 2 sentence victories, whether he's winning over a friend, whether he's winning a battle, whether he's just taken a dispenser, it was too easy. There wasn't enough obstacles. Yeah, for him, I agree. Well, okay. Sounds like we're all nodding our head, which means it is time, Malissa Longo,
you both said,
to talk about you for a moment.
Melissa's the best.
If you're okay with that.
You are.
So what's new in your world, Malissa Longo, Esquire?
Esquire, wow.
A law degree, I missed that. That's pretty cool.
I know. Well, I'm working still on with Quan King on the introvertedrepublic.com, an online store that is featuring walking art made by Melissa, and more items are going up, more designs, and I'm working on a one-of-a-kind section for the website where I make one-of-a-kind things, and I have a few things in the works for that at the moment. And then we're also going to expand, so there's like a comic section, and for like either monthly or some, I don't know, blog for the blogs of the website. And and so that's happening, and there is a potential for a new podcast in the works as well, and it will be co-hosted by Quan and myself, and she will have a section for where she does something on her own, and then she has invited me to have a section where I do something on my own. And so these are all in the
Have
grassroots.
you discussed subject matter yet?
Yeah.
Are we allowed to know what that is yet, or are we hanging on till next time?
Well, the podcast itself will deal with mental health things, and it'll be discussions about mental health, and we'll have guests on from different walks of life, and talk about their journeys through very trying times, as we've all been through these struggles the past few years with COVID and everything. And so that will be that. For my section of the podcast, it'll be once a month, but I have a whole bunch of scripts from my time at school and all of this stuff. So I'm planning to do sort of like a radio show with those scripts, and doing little, voice over things that
radio drama.
That's what it's called. Radio drama, to get back into the acting thing, and because that's where my passion really is acting.
I've said this on the show before, but I love the breadth of your creativity, because like not only are you like an awesome actress, not only are you great at creating like artistic things that are on clothes and practical things like that, but now you're going into like audio formats and video format and things like that. Oh, I love just the breadth of all your creativity. It's so inspiring. I love it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about this podcast and how that grows. That's going to be a lot of fun, and also very helpful and important things to talk about which to talk, of course, is what I meant to say. Right, Dr. Noor?
That's correct.
Do you have any kind of timeline you can give us on how that's going to be progressing? If we're going to be looking forward to maybe a first episode in summer, or what are we talking about here?
Probably, because she wants to record fairly soon. So possibly in the next couple months, like April or May.
Awesome. All right. So everybody, you
Very
heard
soon.
it here first. You're going to be able to find it. Is the hub still going to be theintrovertedrepublic.com? And from there, you can get all your wares and you can also get the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fantastic. Awesome. Everybody. So
See
go
things
check
like this
that out.
shirt. It's from the Silhouette collection over there.
Listener.
Yeah.
Listener. I love this shirt too. I mean, I love all the shirts. All the fabric is great. The designs are great. It's just awesome.
Well, thank
Highly
you.
recommend.
And you can get that shirt at theintrovertedrepublic.com. You click on the Walking Art Made by Melissa tab. That's where all of her goodies are on that website. So check that out. And you can also find her on social media at Malissa Longo. Super easy to remember. As long as you remember that it's
A instead of an E.
Yeah, I was trying to see, is there any other difference? No, it's just an A instead of an E, right?
Yeah.
For
It's
Melissa instead of
M-A-L-I,
Melissa.
not EE or something weird like that.
Right, right. Yes. Yes. My parents gave me a great gift of confusing everyone
Lucky.
with an interesting name that's close to some others, but not the same.
Well, everybody, so go check that out. And now it is time to move forward all through into the future to when we hit the terrible twos.
The bottom line. See the line? It's right at the bottom. Line at the bottom.
What do you think, Melissa? Terrible twos or bottom line?
The terrible bottom.
Bottom two.
The bottom two.
The terrible bottom.
That's my bottom. No, I'm just kidding.
It's the final two questions of the show, everybody. Of course, everybody knows that. The two most important questions. And they are as follows. Question number 1. Dr. Muhammad Noor, on a scale of 1 to 10, or is it 0 to 10? Did we ever decide if it's 0 to 10 or 1 to 10?
I think we're sticking with 1 just because we've always said that. So I don't want to change it.
So 5.5 actually being middle ground. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode of Paramount Plus's Tulsa King, first episode entitled Go West, Old Man?
For this one, I would give it a 6.6 because like I came in kind of like didn't really love it. But then, like, it was mixed after that. Like, I thought, some parts were predictable and or unrealistic, but other parts were quite humorous and, engaging. And I never got bored the whole episode, even though some parts were a little bit funny. So 6.6, above the average.
What about you, Malissa Longo? I already typed in a prediction for what you're going to give it. Scale of 1 to 10. What do you say?
I am going to give it an 8.5.
Ooh, I was very close.
Wow, very high.
I after the initial opening, and maybe it was the grasshopper that did it, but I was there for the ride for the whole way. I think they came out strongly with Dwight's character and Tyson's character and the world building of Tulsa, and I was there for the ride, and I felt for Dwight. So and in spite of the holes or whatever, I could forgive those because I felt they did enough to get me hooked.
Controversial. All right. Well, I'll tell you what I would give it on a scale of 1 to 10. In fact, what I will give it, actually a 7.5. Wow. 7.5. This is actually a pretty good show. It's got some elements that I don't normally care for, which is like the mobster stuff, but it wasn't that much. It wasn't, it didn't bother me, It wasn't that big of a deal because that's just, that's kind of the foundation of the character. It's not terribly what the show is really about. And it's got some things that I do like, which is being in the backwoods of some place that feels foreign to me, whether it's a different country or whether it's a different city or whatever. And I love that kind of stuff. I love, even when he looked over the parking lot and there's the McDonald's and I'm looking, I'm like, ooh, I want to feel like I'm there, but without, having to stay at a dirty Motel 6. I want to like feel like I'm experiencing Tulsa. And so I really like that. It was good on charm, a lot of good charm. It was good on being fun and easy to watch and entertaining. It was lacking in conflict for me, or obstacles more so. I mean, there was conflict in every scene, but the obstacles for the main character it was just a little too easy, and it was lacking a little bit in depth as well. But overall, hey, I would probably recommend it. 7.5. However, the even more important question is question number 2. For the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of Tulsa King. But now that the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet, Dr. Noor, would you of your own volition watch the second episode? And why not?
Actually, I would. I mean, it certainly would not top my list of things to watch. But, if there was a lull and you'll say it's in the doldrums of summer, there's no new Star Trek, I'm caught up on most of the other shows, you come back and watch this. It'd be all right. Like I said, it was this pleasant surprise because I came in very negative and then started very negative. But then after that, like I said, it was more mixed. So I'd give it a shot, see if maybe the second episode draws me in a little bit more.
Always the surprise this man is. Malissa Longo, what about you? Are you going to surprise us with a no?
Yeah, no, it's a no for me. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I thought you were serious. Oh, you had me.
No, I had to stop myself from watching the second episode.
Wow.
Because I was like, okay, no, it's just watch the first. But I do want to watch the second episode. I think Ryan hit the nail on the head when he said there is charm, and I found something very charming about Dwight and his journey of being locked up for 25 years and now suddenly being released and trying to rebuild his life in this very foreign place. And I think the opening credits really set that up too very well, with the old black and white pictures of New York and the vibrant colors and new of Oklahoma. And so, yeah, I think there's great potential for this show to be really good. And I'm curious to see where it goes and how he makes Tulsa his.
I look at this show as the pitch. They say that the pitch is like, for Ozark, they were like, imagine Breaking Bad, but it's just a regular dude and financial stuff, and it's in the Ozarks. And they're like, sold. This one is similar to that, where they're like, imagine Breaking Bad or Ozark, but it's a gangster that just got out of jail, and he's dropped into Tulsa, Oklahoma, and needs to kind of take over the city. Sold. Like we get it. We understand that formula now, and it's interesting. It's fascinating. Yes, I would watch the second episode. It's obviously going to grow, and at some point he's going to meet some kind of resistance, some kind of real resistance, because we know that Armand, that fellow gangster or something, is saying, "Hey, this guy's out coming on my turf." There's going to be something to this, and it's going to grow. Yeah, the ATF as well.
Right.
But I feel like the more interesting thing is going to come from the rival gangs, or there's going to be something there. Anyway, so that's it. It's a yes for me, surprisingly. Good job, Paramount Plus. Good job, everybody that wrote that. And we'll see what happens if it continues to improve, or if it just kind of stays like that and stays good enough. But that's it. What I'm trying to say is, everybody, by the way, before we get to that, please make sure you like this video. Give us your thoughts in the comments below, and give us your suggestions of any new show for April. It's like spring. It's like a new beginning. Spring is sprung, new shows, anything. Let us know, and we will review that show. Maybe. That's about it. What I'm trying to say is this podcast was it was fun. I like these people.
This podcast was an interesting twist from the original predictions.
Yeah, this podcast was, and I'm trying to think of something original, but I can't. But this podcast was fun. I'm stealing Ryan's.
Hey,
Just like
Stallone.
Stallone.
Flattery.
Yeah, just like Dwight did. Just walk in and steal it. All
Yeah.
right.
Stomp on his feet, though, please.
He's like,
I'm not going to stomp on his feet.
oh, that one gangster looked like Sean Astin to me. I was like, is that Sean Astin?
Yeah. Although
I ain't
Armand
trying
was-
no eaves, Mr. Frodo, honest.
Was it Chicky? I think it was
Yeah.
Chicky.
Yeah.
Chicky.
But Armand played Doogie Howser's best friend from way back in the day.
Oh, wow.
How cool
Wait,
is that?
was his name Vinny?
Yeah.
That was Vinny?
Yeah.
Wow, that is cool. I'll have to check that out all over again. Anyway, I guess I have to watch the first again before I watch the second. But everybody, please, on your way out, remember what Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg always likes to say.
Don't forget to be an organ donor, and don't forget to watch the first of things.
All right, freeze frame like the lady with the holy water.
Sit around for a while and force that shitty smile and pretend that